I need to tell you something, not because it is easy, because it is true, and because I have been carrying it for 15 years. I was 18 years old, standing at the altar, marrying a man I had never once been alone with, not in a car, not on a walk, not even for 5 minutes. That night, my wedding night, I sat on the cold bathroom floor, back against the wall, hands shaking. Not because I was afraid of him, because in 18 years of life, not one adult, not one, had ever told me what was supposed to happen next. Not a word, not a conversation, not even a whisper, just silence and a closed door, and a person I had never actually spoken to. This is not a story about religion. This is a story about what happens to a human being when a system slowly, quietly, carefully removes their voice before they are old enough to know they had one. 7 rules, the kind no one writes down, the kind that live in the air of every room you have ever been in. Stay until Rule 5, because Rule 5 is the one I could not say out loud for 15 years. And the day I finally said it, everything changed. I grew up in a closed religious community, small, quiet, simple on the outside. The people were real, the love was real, the meals, the songs, the hands that held mine when I was small, all of it was real. But something else lived underneath all of it, something quiet, something patient, something that was always watching, and that something is what I am here to show you. Rule 1. You were never allowed to be alone, not once, not ever. Before marriage, someone was always in the room, a parent, a sibling, a neighbor who came by at exactly the right moment, always. They called it protection. But here is what it actually was. It was practice. Every single time you wanted to say something real, there was an audience standing next to you. So you learned. Something dangerous. You learned to perform instead of speak. You learned to smile instead of feel. You learned that your real self, the one with questions, with doubts, with a heart that wanted things, was not welcome in the room. And then the wedding day came, and suddenly it was just you and this other person in a quiet room, alone for the very first time, and you realized something that no one had prepared you for. You had never actually spoken to this person, not once, not about anything real. You married a stranger, and the stranger married you, and you were both completely alone together. Rule 2 is the one that made me stop trusting myself, and I did not even notice it was happening. Rule 2, your feelings were treated as danger signals. You liked someone? That feeling needed to be controlled, managed, watched, reported. I understand the intention behind it. I do. But here is what that actually does to a human nervous system. Every time your heart felt something normal, something human, the system immediately said, that feeling is dangerous. So you stopped trusting your heart. You stopped trusting your body. You stopped trusting the quiet voice inside you that knew things before your mind caught up. And then one day someone said, okay, you are married now. Open up, feel things, be close. But the training does not stop at the wedding door. It follows you into every quiet room, into every dark night, for years. I spoke to women in their 40s, married for 2 decades, who said they still felt like someone invisible was watching them, not a real person. A set of rules sitting in the corner of the room, every single night, waiting to judge what they felt. Rule 3. Your wedding night was not yours. No hotel, no space, no room to breathe. First the ceremony, then the long community meal, then hours of visiting, smiling, pouring tea, talking to every relative who had traveled to be there, and when it was finally over, you went to the bride's family home, parents down the hall, sisters in the next room, walls thin enough to hear everything. One woman told me the first month of her marriage, every single conversation with her husband was overheard by someone. She said she learned to speak in a whisper, not because she was a quiet person, but because being watched was the only world she had ever known. Marriage just gave that world a new address. Stay with me, because Rule 4 broke something in me I did not even know was there. And Rule 5 is the one I am going to say out loud, right here, for the very first time. Rule 4, nobody gave us the words, not just information. Words, the actual language to say this feels wrong, or this is normal. You are not broken, or even just what is happening to me. I went from being a girl to being a wife, and in the space between those two things. Total silence. But here is the part that still hits me hardest. It was not just that no one told me anything. It was that I had also been taught quietly, carefully, that wanting to know was shameful. So I did not just feel confused. I felt guilty for being confused, then ashamed of the guilt, then ashamed of the shame, then ashamed that I even noticed something was wrong. Do you understand what kind of trap that is? You cannot have the question. You cannot ask the question. You cannot even feel the shape of what is missing, because noticing feels like a sin. Listen to me carefully. A wound with no name cannot heal. Read that again in your mind. A wound with no name cannot heal, because you cannot treat something you are not allowed to see. Rule 5. This is the one. If you broke any rule at all, you stood up in front of everyone, your parents, your grandparents, every neighbor, every family you had ever known, and you said it out loud, what you did. In front of all of them, the idea was simple: confess, be forgiven, move forward. But here is the truth about shame that the system never understood. Shame does not work on a schedule. You cannot stand in front of a room on Tuesday and be healed by Thursday. And you cannot put a person in front of a crowd at the most vulnerable moment of their life and call that healing. That is not healing. That is performance dressed as healing. And what this built over years, over generations, was a community where people buried things, serious things, deep things, unspeakable things. Because the cost of being found out was so public, so total, so permanent that silence always felt safer than truth, and the things that got buried, they did not disappear. They went underground and grew roots, and some of them are still there. Rule 6 is the one I watched destroy people I loved, people who deserved so much better than what they were given. Rule 6, pain was treated as the problem, not the wound. The same process designed for a small mistake during courtship was the same process used when something truly serious happened. I need you to hear this. A process built to restore community peace is not the same as a process built to protect the person who was harmed. Restoring peace means the group moves forward, but the person carrying the harm in their body, their healing does not follow a group timeline. It does not follow any timeline, and in a system where peace is the highest goal, a person whose pain is still visible, still present, still loud, that person becomes the problem, not the wound. The person I watched that happen, to people I loved deeply, to people who were already carrying more than any human being should ever carry alone, and I watched the system look them in the eye and ask them to be quieter about it. Rule 7, leaving cost you everything. I am calling it a rule because that is exactly what it is, just written in a different language. If you walked away, you did not just lose your church, you lost your mother, your father, your sisters, your brothers, every friend who ever knew your name, every voice from your childhood, every hand that ever held yours. Gone in one day, without warning, without mercy. Nobody threatened you. Nobody had to. The system was designed so that the cost of leaving was personal enough, complete enough, permanent enough that most people never allowed themselves to even think about it. You stayed not because you believed everything. You stayed because leaving meant losing every person who had ever loved you. That is not faith. That is a cage, built not out of iron but out of the people you love most, and the cruelest part. You helped build it without knowing you were building it, one quiet day at a time, your whole life. I want to say one last thing, and I want to say it slowly. I did not leave because I hated anyone. I left quietly, without anger, without a speech. I left because after 15 years I finally believed one thing, one simple thing, that I was allowed to exist with my own body, my own questions, my own voice, my own feelings. My own life, without shame being the price I paid. Just to be a human being in this world. Most people never have to fight for that belief. They are just born with it. Where I came from, it cost everything. And I want you to know, if you are sitting somewhere right now and something in this video felt like it was written for you, you are not broken. You never were. You were just in a room where they made you believe the walls were permanent. they are not. Tell me in the comments which rule was yours. The one that hit differently, the one you have been carrying, the one you recognized before I even finished saying it. I read every single one. And if you want to see part 2, what leaving actually looked like, what it cost, and what was waiting on the other side, subscribe now. That video is almost ready. And after watching this one, I think you already know you need to see it. I will see you there.